Hi, welcome back to Sacred by Design. I'm Laureen Youngblood, Interiors. And today in our Kitchen Design Basics series, we're going to talk about larger kitchens. Now, larger kitchens come in all kinds of shapes and sizes, configurations. I'm not going to try and hit on all of those. What I'd like to do is talk about the basics of layout. And just to remember that you want to ask all the pertinent questions. Your designer should be asking you, or you need to be asking yourself, how many people use the kitchen at the same time? Who does the cleaning? Who does the cooking? What kind of cooking do you do? Do you bake? Are you a chef? Are you both? Do you have a baker and a chef? And if that's the case, especially with more than one person, make sure that you incorporate a space for both, where you're not either crammed up against each other or trying to do prep in the same space. In a larger kitchen, you should have room to spread out a little bit, create a workspace for the baker and create a workspace for the cook. And who does the cleaning? What kind of sink do they want? Where do they want their dishwasher? The other things are more about materials, which we talk about in another series last year. So please feel free to go back and talk about material usage in kitchens. However, in a large kitchen, if you're really fortunate, you get the fabulous island. Some people love to have a cooktop and or range in their island. Some people don't. A lot of the complaints or disagreement about having a range or cooktop in your island is all about the hood. So let's talk about that and address that for a second. First of all, if you have a strong enough hood, you should be able to raise the height enough that it's not down in your face blocking a view, which is what most people complain about, that island hood that hangs down. And if it's low enough, it's going to hit, depending on how tall you are. So, just keep that in mind. You can raise it up. Typically, you will have that option depending on how high your ceilings are to get that height above where it's interfering with your view and your ability to connect with people on the other side of the island. Or maybe you just don't like the look of it, which is fine too. An option, if you have the ability and the room, and I have done this in a number of kitchen designs, is that you do what we call an external blower. And that means that the blower that creates the suction in your fan, ventilation, goes either in your attic or outside. It can be wall mounted outside your house. So the venting comes out, the blower sucks through the venting, so on and so forth. An external blower. Sometimes it's what they call an inline external blower. That means the venting is going to go straight through the blower and then out the other side, and then maybe it exits the house on the other side or up through the roof. If you're fortunate, you have enough attic space to do that. Couple of things to remember. One, that reduces noise, which is super awesome, because then the parts that are inside are just parts, but all the things that make the noise are going to be either in the attic or outside, which is awesome. Yes, it's more expensive. You have to talk about running electrical, switching on your island, so on and so forth. The nice thing about it is there's no hood. You can just put a flat paintable grate over the air duct in your ceiling. It gets painted the same color as your ceiling. It's flush with your ceiling and nobody can see it. Nobody knows it's there but you. That's an option. The other option is downdraft. Now, I know that there are some upgrades where you get the pop-up downdraft. That's where the venting goes down behind the range and out through the floor, or second, if you're on the kitchen's on the second floor, and then it goes out through the floor joists. I'm not a huge fan of downdrafts. I do know that there are some situations where you just cannot get away from it. If that's the case, the pop-up, if you've got the room in a large kitchen, hopefully you do, is going to be a really great option. Just keep in mind a couple of things. Steam and heat rise, which means if it's behind the burners or below the burners, it's going to be pulling the heat off of your burners before it pulls the steam or grease off the top or smell off the top of your pots and pans. The pop-ups give you a little bit more. Some of the newer ones especially, and your higher end ones, will suction from the top and then pull down. So make sure that you talk to your appliance person extensively about your ventilation. It tends to be one of those things that gets left to the last. We're like, oh, we'll just do it that way, and we don't think about it. If you're a cook, where your cooktop vents out of, whether that's a range or cooktop, whether or not you have gas or electric, all induction, all of those things are going to affect that. So please make sure you have an extensive conversation with your appliance person about that, and then with your kitchen designer, so you make sure you have cabinets that will accommodate whichever way you're going to go with that. So that's on an island range. And then of course, if you've got the ability to put the range and make it a focal point in bigger kitchens, we like to do that. Those are super fun. All kinds of design options. Things to keep in mind that you should be hearing from your appliance person is whether or not you have enough CFMs according to the BTUs on your range. I like to, in larger kitchens, always make my hood a minimum of 6 inches wider than my range or cooktop. So if I have a 30-inch range or cooktop, I want my hood to be 36. If I have a 36-inch range or cooktop, I want my hood to be a minimum 42. It allows for that overage that comes out and around. I think it's a very important thing that gets left behind. In a large kitchen, that extra 6 inches isn't going to affect your storage. It gives you a really more modern, contemporary presence. It's pretty awesome. And you can have a lot of fun with that. So those are one of those places where us designers like to play and have some fun and create focal points or new opportunities for that. I have done kitchens where there were 2 islands back to back, which is super cool. One out for serving and with a higher top where maybe kids do homework or people sit and visit, and then one that's further in that had like a sink for workspace. You can put your sink in your island. Obviously the options are limitless in a large kitchen. Make sure that you remember where you want your trash, where you want your refrigerator, where you want your microwave. Are they accessible? Those are the 3 things that people will come in and interrupt and interfere with your working space and your workflow when you are in the kitchen and they just need access. So trash, refrigerator, and microwave. Those are the 3 things. Do you want, obviously, your trash to be accessible to your kitchen sink? That's quite often where we use our trash most often, but we also want it accessible for other people not to have to walk through our workspace. If you're really fortunate, your kitchen's big enough, then you can have 2, one by your sink and then one out closer towards the edge, wherever that is, where people that are there can use it without interfering. They can throw their trash away and not get in your way. Those are some of the things. Microwave, the same thing. You want to kind of make sure it's somewhere closer, and the refrigerator. Those are the 3 things that people will come in and interfere in your workflow. And then also thinking about second sinks, especially if you have 2 cooks in the house, or you have somebody that does all the prep work and another person doesn't cook. Everybody cooks differently. Those are all questions that your designer should be asking you. The fun part about large kitchens is that hopefully you have less concern about storage and way more options and playroom with where you're putting your appliances. So I hope you have fun. I hope this was helpful for you. And again, Laureen Youngblood, Sacred by Design. I hope you have an amazing day.